From the Fidelity Bank Foundation studio, PBS Kansas presents One-on-One with Victor Hogstrom.
This is where notable Kansans come to talk about the things that matter. My guest this week is President and CEO of what U.S. News and World Report says is one of the best nursing homes in the nation, Bluestem Communities, based in North Newton, Kansas. James Krehbiel earned a healthcare and hospital administration degree from Wichita State University in 1989. He's been at the helm of Bluestem, and before that, its predecessor organization since 1999. Coming up, we'll discuss the challenges and rewards of managing a large senior care organization. We'll discuss the changes that have occurred over the past 30 years and how you or a loved one should prepare for living out your golden years in comfort and dignity. Get set for an interesting and informative half hour as I go one-on-one with Bluestem Communities CEO James Krehbiel. Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Victor Hogstrom, and I'm pleased to welcome Bluestem Communities President and CEO James Krehbiel to the program. James, it's a pleasure to have you.
It's great to be here.
Now, as a young man, what first interested you as a career, and how did you get into the management of a healthcare community?
Yeah. When I was young, I enjoyed kind of the various types of businesses and those type of things, and then wanted to really make a difference in people's lives. And so that's kind of how I got interested in healthcare administration. I tried out, when I was at Wichita State, I tried out a number of different places, both from acute care hospitals to long-term care, home health, and just got a real passion for the people that I was serving.
Now, you mentioned growing up here.
Yeah.
Tell us about that and give us a little bit about your background.
Yeah. My background is I am a son of a minister, and so
Really?
we moved around these areas. And so initially I lived in Philadelphia and lived in Minnesota, close to Minneapolis, but most of my years were here in Kansas. And so I moved here when I was 5 years of age and have thoroughly loved Kansas. Kansas has been a great community. Lived in more smaller communities from Gossel and Newton and Mound Ridge communities, and now in Heston. And just have really enjoyed being in this area.
Now, Bluestem is the new name, Bluestem Communities.
Right.
But
Yeah.
tell us when and why did the name get changed?
Yeah. Well, back 10 years ago, exactly, we were just doing our 10-year anniversary, Showalter Villa, where I was at, and then Kidder Bethel Village, which are 6 miles apart, came together and realized that it was important, with all the things that were going on within healthcare, that it would be a good idea for the two of us to come together. And we did that. We created a company called Bluestem Communities, which is a nonprofit organization.
Now, these were two different organizations.
These are two different organizations, okay. Right. And actually, these two organizations were each other's biggest competitors, you know.
And you merged.
And they merged, exactly. And so we got that name basically as we think about our forefathers that came to the Kansas. You know, the big Bluestem was the grass that many times they were coming. And what happens with big Bluestem grass is the roots go very deep and they interlock. And we realized by us coming together that we would be able to be stronger together when the various winds of things that can happen within healthcare will make us stronger. And then the other thing that with the Bluestem grass that happens is it works well with the other plant species, and that's for us too. We want to be an important part within the community that's working well with the other organizations that are within that community.
What kind of person does it take to work in a life plan community, especially in your capacity, right, the president and CEO?
Yeah, it's somebody that cares deeply about seniors. That's extremely important. That cares deeply about the people that work there. You have a lot of interactions. It's all about what I would say community at the end of the day, where you have employees and seniors that are working closely together. And then the other thing that's important is then being able to put those things together to run an effective community and effective healthcare organization. And so,
How did you begin learning to care deeply for seniors?
yeah. When I was young, I actually had a paper route that I would do, and many times would stop in and would connect with many of the individuals that I was delivering the newspaper to. And soon I realized I had a real connection with those individuals. And I always had great connections with all ages, but really enjoyed and realized pretty quickly when I would talk to them that their story was something that I could learn so much from. And so I would hear individuals that had been in World War II and listening to the stories that they had involved. I listened to individuals, some of the people that even were post-Civil War and would tell about some of the things that were happening, when 10, 20 years after the Civil War. I lived with a lady that was 100 years of age, and to listen to her story about all the things that they went through. And I realized that really the things I'm going through are really not that difficult or stressful in comparison to their story.
So you are kind of a historian in disguise, also.
Absolutely. I love history. Yeah.
So how have you changed as a manager over the past decades, 3 decades, I should say,
Right, 30 years.
That you've been in this business?
Yeah. Well, initially, when I came into the business, I was involved with acute care, and so I did that for a period of time and really enjoyed that, and then went into long-term care and realized that there was a really big need there. Initially, many times you had, single-site nursing homes or assisted living that were within the community. And from that time, things have really grown, where now we have what's called life plan communities, where you have assisted living and healthcare facilities and independent living, and a wide variety of other services that are being provided. And all of those things are trying to be able to enhance the overall experience for the person that's living there. And so,
how has the field as a whole, that's the field of life plan communities, changed during your 30-year involvement?
We've gone from organizations that are much smaller, or many times are doing one type of service, to various organizations that are now becoming larger. And some of the reason why they're needing to become larger is just from an efficiency of cost and trying to make things more reasonable for the people they serve. And so that's probably been the biggest change. One of the things I experienced in South Dakota was they went from there where there was over 80 hospitals, went down to 3 systems. And part of that was just to try to make things more efficient for people that are being served.
So tell our audience, James, when, who, and why should a person make plans to live in a life plan community?
Well, I mean, for every individual, it's going to be different. And so what's unique for some particular person, some individuals will move in their 60s and 70s. Other individuals, many times they'll move more in their 80s and 90s. So it really depends on the individual themselves. What I normally say is it's better to do it sooner than later, because many times what happens is when an individual gets into a crisis, that's maybe not the best time to move. And so many times when you're in a crisis situation, that's sometimes the most difficult time to make a change. And so within our communities and other communities around the state, you have what's called life plan communities. Many people move there in independent living, and then many times will go on to assisted living and healthcare. And they have that supported services that's there to be able to support them.
But a person in the 60s, I mean, that's young and healthy and hopefully strong.
Right.
Why should that person make plans to move into a life plan community?
Yeah. Many times we have individuals that want to move into our independent living, and then many times then they either want to do various voluntary service, or they want to be able to travel, and they don't want to worry about their home. And so many times they're doing things that are sort of missional for them, things that are giving them purpose. Mm-hmm. And so many times that's a perfect type of situation, because we're looking after their property when they're maybe living in another state or somewhere else within the state itself.
Why does living in a small shared room in a life plan community cost a shared room that costs about $6,000 or a single room about $9,000 a month. Right. Why should that be appealing to anyone? And how can one plan for that kind of expense?
Yeah. Yeah, healthcare is expensive, I realize that, whether you're talking about acute care or long-term care. The majority of the costs, though, are actually salaries. So they're for individuals that are literally providing the care itself. So between 65 and 70% of all of our costs are going for the individuals that are taking care of the loved one. And what we're experiencing a little bit, even more so here in the last number of 10, 20, 15 years, is just a shortage of good employees. And so the importance of trying to be able to provide good wages for those individuals. And those individuals are actually, I would say, are individuals that I respect deeply because they're taking care of these individuals during sometimes one of the most difficult times. And so many of those costs are related to salaries for those individuals to take care of their loved one.
Is it difficult hiring skilled individuals to do this job?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the industry itself, especially during COVID time, what you saw many times is just a lot of individuals that say, I can't do this anymore. And so many times, many healthcare professionals, whether they are RNs or CNAs, were many times leaving the field. We were fortunate, and we continue to be able to have, the majority of the individuals, 2/3 of our staff continue to stay throughout all of COVID. But it does put a lot of pressure on a lot of healthcare organizations just in the staffing levels. The other thing you have is you have more individuals that are retiring. You have a very large RN population and CNA population that are going to be retiring in the next 10 years. And so the importance of getting those individuals that are passionate about the mission is more important than ever.
You mentioned COVID. During its high point, there were several nursing facilities or life plan facilities that really didn't do very well, several of them. But we didn't hear anything about Bluestem Community. What did you do differently? And how did you manage to pull that off? Because you, as I mentioned in the introduction, were among the top-ranked nursing care facilities in the country, according to, which magazine was this?
U.S. News and World Report?
Yes, thank you, U.S. News and World Report, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we're fortunate because 98% of the people that work for us care deeply about the mission. And so when COVID happened, even though none of us wanted to go through something like COVID, you have individuals that say, hey, this is somebody that it's really important that we do the right things to try to be able to keep these individuals safe. And so, we went to, many of the things that were required by KDADS, the Kansas Department of Aging, what they required us, we were making sure that we were being, the due diligence there was very careful. And so whether it was masking, whether it was testing on a regular basis, we were fortunate because we have all private rooms. We have no semi-private rooms. And so we were able to keep people separate within their rooms. The one thing, though, that was the greatest concern about all of that is when you talk about quality of life issues, the thing that's so important to us that's part of our overall mission. Mm-hmm. And so we had to get pretty creative in that area and trying to do those things that make sure that people were still being able to connect with their loved ones and doing those things that we're trying to be able to instill, those things that are really important for their missional needs. And so that was probably the more difficult aspect of it for us.
What are the care options that various facilities offer in the country?
Right. You have a wide variety of services that are able to be from independent living, assisted living, healthcare, home health. We also have a program that's called Bluestem PACE that provides services to people within their home setting. We bring them, there's adult day services. There's just a wide variety of type of services to try to be able to meet the needs. And it's becoming a more and more important thing all the time because the senior population is growing dramatically over the next 5 to 10 years. And so there's going to be even more need for all of these services as we move forward for the future.
I mentioned earlier that a single room, and of course you don't have double rooms.
We don't have any semi-privates, right?
Yes, all private rooms, but one may cost $6,000 per person in a single room, a private room may cost $9,000
Right.
in some facilities.
Uh-huh.
How could nursing care be made affordable in America today?
Well, I mean, there's a wide variety of things. I mean, one of the ways you can do that is being able to work together, kind of like what we're doing, and that is...
Like how?
Well, I mean, several organizations are coming together that maybe have the same mission as a nonprofit, where you are able to avoid some of the duplication of services. Mm-hmm. So examples would be when we came together, we were able then to go down to one CEO, one CFO, one chief operating officer. You also have sometimes duplications within, and so you can create some efficiencies with that. That's one of the key areas. But there's always more and more things we can do to try to be able to become more efficient and more effective in working with people that are seniors.
For a person watching this program right now who's thinking and considering enrolling, what advice would you give them to keep the costs down?
Right. Well, I mean, one of the most important things for them is to do really good planning, and so it's important for them to look at their circumstances from the standpoint of how do they plan as they move forward in the future. One of the ways they're able to do that is just, basically looking at all the various options that are out there, and then looking at those options from the standpoint of saying, okay, at this time of my life, this would fit very well for me. But as a person maybe declines in health, they might need more higher and higher levels of care as they move forward in the future.
Yeah, but what kind of financial planning should that require?
It would require a wide variety of things, maybe sitting down with their financial planner and kind of looking at what are the kind of financial assets they have today, and then looking at that and saying, then how do I then use that money wisely as I look at the future? And so.
What if one could not afford to pay for such care? What do they do? What are the options?
Right. The options would be there's both Medicaid that's involved, where if an individual does run out of all their resources, they're able to go on Medicaid. Our caregivers would not know the difference between whether a private pay individual there or somebody on long-term care insurance or Medicaid. Right. We also started another new program that we did, and that's what's called PACE. And that's Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. And those are individuals, approximately about 90% of the individuals that are on that program are on Medicaid. And that is a program that allows them to be able to stay in their own home setting. And then they come to a daycare center, and there they'll be seen by our physicians, they'll be seen by physical therapy, and their whole goal is to try to be able to keep them there as long as possible.
I'm sure from time to time you face several challenges, and you go home at night scratching your head and probably thinking about a certain challenge and can't sleep at night. What are those?
Yeah, I mean, the big things that were challenged me over the years is we talked about COVID. That would have been one of the things, trying to make sure
hopefully that's gone.
It is, trying to keep people safe. And so I am thrilled that is gone. And people are able then to have those quality of life now. But other things is just, there's what staffing needs. Is there ways that we can improve our overall mission that continue to be on a person's mind? And so there's just a wide variety of things. I usually say to myself when I get home, I'll maybe think about that for a while, but eventually then I need to let it go, because I'm not going to be in the best for our mission and for our organization if I don't let that go after a period of time.
What about any fun things about the work?
Right. I love what I do. And the reason why I love what I do is because I care deeply about the people that are there. I love the people I work with. I love the people that live there. We have individuals. One of our core values is actually fun. And why I love that so much is it's people living together in community and coming together and making a difference in each other's lives.
But I'm sure when you get attached to one or two
Right.
of your clients and they're gone,
Yeah.
how does that make you feel? What goes through your mind?
Well, you go through grieving because many times these are individuals that have become really close personal friends. And I know for either myself or some of our caregivers that see that 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 times, it can be difficult. And so it's important at times to be able to have what I would say a sort of a ceremony to recognize those individuals and kind of sort of a letting go. but yeah, it's difficult. I mean, but at the end of the day, we realize how important it is to do what we're doing in trying to be able to further the mission.
Right, it's time to play the game on one-on-one.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. I'll start a sentence and you finish it.
Okay.
All right? First one. Something about my job that brings me joy is?
People.
And why?
Because you see a wide variety of personalities and individuals that maybe are humorous or have a spark or are extremely intelligent. And I just love to work with various different individuals, and you see their different personalities.
How much, as CEO, do you learn from these people that you have?
I learn every day. I sat down with an individual literally a month ago, and when I sat there, I said, I am better off hearing this person's story, and I can learn so much from that individual just listening to their past story.
Yeah, because these are some very intelligent people, retired people, who've made a great difference to our country and to their communities.
Right.
Right.
Right. You have individuals. I've sat with an individual the other day that, again, we talked about, has been in some of the different world wars that they and how they served our country. There's been individuals that have literally were involved in Holland. We have a resident that literally then, when it came to hiding some of the Jewish children, were involved with that. You have individuals that were almost like the Sound of Music that had to go on the other side of when Russia was coming in. I mean, you just have these amazing stories that you sort of sit here and say, my life is pretty simple in comparison to what they've gone through.
Has any one of those stories made you cry?
All the time.
All the time?
Yeah.
Wow. Which one specifically? Do you have one?
Well, the one where the person was sheltering, Jewish children and literally risking their lives. And just to listen to them talk about that. Another story that was one where a person was a missionary in Africa, and literally they had individuals that came in, and the country was in chaos. And this individual, with all that they were going through, just to listen to that story and just think, wow, they have such a powerful story.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's continue here. One of the most frustrating aspects of my job is?
Probably that that sometimes I can't accomplish things as quickly as I would hope I could, because you're dealing with a lot of different people and you need to listen to all those voices.
Right.
And so that can sometimes, and so you're sometimes not able to get things done quite as quickly as you'd hope.
My idea of the perfect vacation is?
Wow. My idea of the perfect vacation is probably biking somewhere, either in the U.S. or in Europe, because I love to go biking, and you just get to see the people when you're doing that.
One thing about our society that I just don't understand is?
Yeah, I mean, the area that probably concerns me the most sometimes about our society is sometimes some of the divisions that happen, and when people just listen to each other's stories, I think that we could come together. And sometimes I think people jump too much to sort of getting involved in different types of divisions. And once you get to know an individual, they really can come together as people.
If I could go back in time and do something over again, it would be?
I would say on that, you're having some tough ones here. If I could go back in time, I would say that at times, I would not have been as hard on my children. There's times where as a parent, you think I need to discipline them and maybe would come down a little too hard. And at times, I wish I'd go back, I would probably not be a parent that is quite as, this is the way you do it. And so.
But let's hope it's making them into good citizens, right?
It does.
That's the goal.
Absolutely, they're wonderful.
Right. You work with a lot of elderly, so this question you should be able to deal with very easily. My greatest fear about getting older is?
My greatest fear about getting older is probably, is just that some of the health issues and or maybe if you have memory issues, those type of things, that's always pretty difficult for an individual. And just experiencing that as you get older. And
You mentioned your children, how hard you are on them. Tell us about your family.
Yeah. I have two daughters. We adopted them from China, and they have been the joys of my life. I have a wife that is wonderful, and she's actually works for Bluestem also. And then she also has a daughter, and they truly are the joys of my life.
So what is your favorite way to relax?
Favorite way to relax is probably to go for hikes on the Flint Hills. And so I love to go, and I love to be in an area, because many times I'm with people a lot. And so I like to be able to go to those more solitude places and to just be able to experience nature.
Bluestem Communities President and CEO, James Krehbiel, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you.
It's been fun.
All right.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this edition of One-on-One. One-on-one@kpts.org is our email address. That's if you have a question or comment. I'm Victor Hogstrom. Be well, and I'll see you again soon.